game difficulty is a topic that has come up quite a bit this year. Because of a few games that have come out really, back a while back ago, it was Crash Bandicoot, the Insane Trilogy. Now we have Cuphead out there on the market, and people are really getting in there and complaining about, should difficulty in video games be a thing? Should video games be made easy and accessible to everybody to sit down and enjoy? And this is a topic that has kind of blown up Twitter. You have people arguing about this concept. You have people who are arguing that if the gameplay is too hard, the game is broken. You have people defending the hard gameplay. And it puts people into this perspective of really whether or not they can enjoy the game for what it is. And a lot of this comes from because of Cuphead. Cuphead, more recently, is known for its brutal difficulty, its run-and-gun, Contra-esque style of gameplay. But a lot of people are saying that they're not being able to enjoy the artwork because the game is simply too hard. So this begs a question that's come up called difficulty versus exclusion. Because basically, if someone is not as skilled in a game that is difficult or not able to accomplish some of these difficult tasks in video games, they don't get to experience the game for what it is. This is something that has kind of, in a way, already destroyed the video game industry, because we live in a day and age where games have purposely been made easy. We have games such as Persona 5 that add a safe mode into the game, which basically is a free pass. You die in battle, it automatically resurrects you, so you can start the battle off right where you left off at. We also have games such as that have these easy difficulties, these super easy modes to go ahead and get you through. We have games like Wolfenstein that poke fun at that, and I think call it baby mode and things like that. And it's something that has been put into video games. But somebody like me who has grown up with video games, who played games on the Super Nintendo, who played games on the NES, these games were not easy. These games did not hand you the game on a silver platter and say, enjoy the game. We're going to make this easy for you to beat it. You had to go through and work every single one of those moments to become skilled at that game. Final Fantasy IV's final boss is one of the hardest bosses in Final Fantasy, because it's not simply just a boss you can turn around and be like, hey, look at us. We're gonna put this boss in there and make it difficult, because you have to use special moves, use your stat boosters to try and beat this boss. This is something that other RPGs have tried to do in the past. We have games like Crash Bandicoot, which had people going off saying that the original Crash Bandicoot was too difficult. Why? Because it had really frustrating platforming elements. The developers took the time to make those precision jumps, make it more difficult, because Crash Bandicoot was already a difficult game. This, in a way, kind of divided people, because people are now complaining that the game is too hard. I platinumed Crash Bandicoot, the original Crash Bandicoot on the Insane Trilogy. I have the Platinum Trophy sitting in my collection. And I've had people ask me, how on earth did I do it? I consider myself above average when it comes to platformers. I'm not trying to brag here, but I consider myself to be really, really good at platformers. But Crash Bandicoot was not something that I picked up and just started going through, cruising through the levels, getting this. There were times I had my screw-ups, I had messed up. I had to learn where to jump, when to jump, how to jump in some of these levels to get these gold relics in order to get that Platinum Trophy. It wasn't a cakewalk. It wasn't something that I simply learned to do just like that. It was learning the right precision, paying attention to the exact movements that Crash was doing at the time that he was doing it. I wouldn't say Crash Bandicoot was difficult as much as it is a test of patience. And I think that's where a lot of times game difficulty lies. I mean, you know, as to saying game difficulty or games being harder, dumbing down the game difficulty and making Cuphead easy, or these other games out there that are hard, that would be like me saying about fighting games, because I suck at fighting games. I am not very good at fighting games. But that would be like me going to these developers and saying, well, you know what? I don't feel included in your game. I can't play your game. I really want to. So you need to create a way where I can press a button and it automatically does the combos for me. It's kind of the same concept. I'm asking the developers to change the way that they envisioned the game in order for them to make it so I can be included. And this to me comes off as people whining. This to me comes off as people who took a look at Cuphead, thought it would be a cutesy kids game that they could blow through, easy platformer, and it attested to being very, very hard. It doesn't help for the fact that you have a Kotaku editor who struggled to get through that game and kind of made a mockery of himself and started the whole topic about should video game journalists be good at video games. It doesn't help that you have that backing it as well. It doesn't help that you have them going off on themselves saying that games shouldn't be this difficult. And I'm just kind of sitting here rolling my eyes. Because I grew up in an era where video games were intentionally made hard. It was trial and error. You didn't have a free pass. I grew up in the era of the original Mario games, the NES Mario games. Playing those, having to go through and do some of the things that you had to do in those games, it was not easy. The original Metroid game was not easy. The original Contra game was not easy. How did you get good at those games? Practice, practice, practice. And I think this topic has really started to come up, like I said at the beginning of the video, because too many people have had it easy in games. So when a game like Dark Souls comes along, when a game like Bloodborne comes along, when a game like Cuphead comes along, people will start to complain that the difficulty is just too high, because we're used to having games handed to us on a silver platter. We're used to that easy satisfaction. Another example of a game that I can think of recently that got a lot of bad flack for being hard was Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze. A lot of people trashed that game simply because the game was too difficult. Mind you, the game had some really creative elements, some really creative gameplay. The difficulty was at times downright brutal, but I absolutely enjoyed it. And Nom said it perfectly in a podcast that we did. He said if you're playing a platformer and if it doesn't make you say, I hate this effing game at least once, it's not a good platformer. And that is the truth. That can be said about a lot of different games. There are certain games that, yes, they aren't going to be hurt to be easy, but that's kind of part of the reason I don't enjoy modern day platformers, is because the difficulty is not there. They just hand it to you. There's really no challenge to it. I went back to play Donkey Kong 64 last year. That game was difficult as hell. That game still gave me a run for my money. Was I able to complete it? Yes. Was it easy? No. Did I enjoy it? Definitely. So in closing, these people who are complaining that they need to be included in these difficult games, they really don't. If the game's too difficult for you to sit down and enjoy and play, or you're not being able to do it, then it's probably not a game for you. Just like I've accepted the fact that fighting games are not for me. Sure, a fighting game may have a great story. I may really enjoy getting into its lore. But to ask them to change it into something that is more suitable for me, make it easier for me because I'm too stupid to figure out how to use fighting control game mechanics, that's asking a bit much. It really comes down to people who just whine that video games are too hard. So to any studios who come across this, to any indie developers who come across this, make the games the way that you want to. Don't worry about the people who are going to bitch and complain that it's hard, because you're going to have those people who are going to enjoy your game and see it for what it is. A game that is meant to be difficult, a game that is meant to be challenging. And in this day and age, I think people need to be reminded of how hard video games were back in the day. I think people need to be reminded of how easy we have it in video games today. And these games such as Cuphead and Dark Souls are reminding people that games were not that easy. That not every game designed is going to be a game that you can just cruise through, set on the easiest difficulty, and have at it. Thoughts, opinions, leave those down below in the comment box. Let me know what you guys have to think on this. This is just kind of one of those things that if we let it continue to happen, I can see it potentially affecting the future of video games in general, as it kind of already has, because it's divided gamers. It's made that bridge between what we consider casual gamers and what we consider hardcore gamers. So thoughts, opinions, leave that down below in the comment box. I will also be uploading a video with me and the Power Up Mushroom, along with one of our other friends, talking about this very subject. And I'll probably call it part 2 to this, because there were some things that they said that I think have very valid points as well. But you guys have been watching The Spoony Bard. Follow me on Facebook and Twitter. Those links are going to be down below in that description box, as well as my other social media links. Most importantly, guys, stay happy, be happy, game happy. The Spoony Bard is checking out.